Hello and welcome to the Jake and Gino podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, one of the co-founders of Jake and Gino, and today's guest is a franchise expert, serial entrepreneur, and co-founder of Franosity, Cliff Nonnenmacher. Having owned and developed multiple successful brands, he is passionate about mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs and helping them navigate the path to business ownership. Without further ado, welcome to the show, brother. How we doing?
I'm doing great, Gino. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Former New Yorker, he economic deserter. I mean, the topic today is franchising, right? And it's just interesting. Before I hit the record button, I could have spoken to you for hours about business, franchising. Our three-step framework, buy right, manage right, finance right, really fits into the realm of franchising. But before we get all into that, I really want to learn a little bit about you, how you got into the franchising business and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I am a serial entrepreneur, so my journey goes back. I was entrepreneurial my entire life, so I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be self-employed. Like it was blinding clarity for me. I just knew. Everyone around me is like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe I'll take over my dad's company. Maybe I'll become, but I just knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be self-employed. I was raking golf balls out of ponds and selling them at country clubs and doing all the things that a entrepreneurial kid would do. But I became an investment banker because as I was getting involved in businesses, as an example, I owned parasail boats on Marco Island and the Jersey Shore, LBI. And I was in the water sport business for many years with fleets of jet skis and catamarans and boat rentals and excursions and all that stuff. So I was making money at a young age. When I say doing that, I was like 19. So skipped college, went straight into entrepreneurship, and then I started trading. And I was an early trader. My handle was Blue Chip. So I just started day trading when day trading wasn't even a thing. I took my portfolio to Wall Street, ended up getting a job with Solomon Smith Barney at the time, which is now Morgan Stanley. I was with a group. We were managing about $250 million in high net worth assets. This is going back. I'm going back to like 2000. And I had a situation where I owned a printer in the office and I had to refit. I was financially responsible for the printer. So I ended up getting a solder iron. I cut a copper pipe and I melted a hole into the toner reserve of the cartridge. And I filled it with toner to see, could I avoid paying $250 for the toner cartridge and put it back in? And it worked. I ended up finding it, long story short, I ended up finding a company in Australia that reverse engineered printer consumables. They reverse engineered the secret handshake chip on the front of the cartridge to let the printer know we're OEM, original equipment manufacturer, and then reset the counter. With partners, bought the rights to the entire state of New York and Connecticut. This is how I entered, mid-20s. This is how I entered franchising by becoming what's called the master franchise, where I own the rights to the two states, New York and Connecticut. Oh, yes, I was in Florida, Gino. I moved back to New York and scaled 36 units and then sold the company, moved back to Florida. But that was my introduction to franchising, and I fell in love with it. I did. I just fell in love with the methodology. I fell in love with the ability to collapse time and scale. I fell in love with the idea that, we use this term entrepreneur, right? But if you really think about it, there's a business owner and then there's an entrepreneur. I view Elon and like the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs, they're entrepreneurs. They created an industry, they disrupted an industry, right? They've done something, they've built, they've invented, they've patented. In franchising, you could just be an ordinary person that's not that visionary creative, not that quote entrepreneurial, and you could create wealth, no problem. Just buy it, execute it flawlessly, follow the model, and scale it. That's what I love about franchising is, and I do believe in collapsing time because I don't want to be that guy. It's like, how long have you owned this company? 50 years. No, I want to do it in 5, right? I want to buy it, scale it, and then cash in on it, maybe do it again and again and again. I'm on my 12th, concept, minimum now, 12. So I just love the building and I love the cashing in. I love the building and the cashing in. So that's kind of my journey.
So while people are doing beer stands and keg stands at the age of 25, 26, you're out there trying to make your first few $1,000,000, and that separates you. You're taking all of the risk, and that's what's the difference between the employer. You're a producer versus a consumer. And you are what I call creating happy money. You're doing what you love. And that's what's great about being an entrepreneur. If you can get to that space where you're not just worrying about paying your bills, because to me, the definition of an entrepreneur, I think Tony Robbins said this, is somebody who's making enough money to pay for their own mistakes. That's the level of being an entrepreneur, because you make a ton of mistakes, you lose a ton of money, but you don't get discouraged. And you are going to disrupt at some point, but you're going to get a lot of hate and a lot of criticism. No one hates business owners, but how many people hate Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and all those because they have an opinion about them? Meanwhile, those guys don't care because they're creating happy money. It's not about money to them. It's about the result. It's about leaving an impact. It's about leaving this place in a better space. I think that's what the vast majority of those entrepreneurs are focusing on, and that's big picture. That's a lot of risk. That's a lot of being scared. But for you, getting into the franchise space, you look at the franchise concept. Who should be franchising and who should stay away from buying a franchise? Let's start that before I get the definition of a franchise and the pros and cons of a franchise, because I don't think it's for everybody, to be completely honest with you.
No, it's not for everybody. No, like you're correct. My point was anyone with a desire to do it can. You don't need to be entrepreneurial. You don't need to be a visionary. You don't need to be a disruptor. You don't need to be able to create an app. But you're right. There's a lot of people that are not a fit for franchising. And who are those people, right? I think there's a psychology to some people, and these folks. They're in your life. They're in your circles. And we try and distance ourselves from them because they spend all day trying to analyze reasons for failure. Right. That's what they do literally all day is they just come up. What did Einstein say? Don't hang out with negative people. They find a problem with every solution. Right. Like it's like you don't want to be around those folks.
Yes.
Those are the folks, the naysayers, the economy's going to crumble, the sky. Like those folks are not a fit because they spend too much time on the negative instead of like trying to win and trying to achieve results and literally obsessing over success. They don't obsess over success. They obsess over risk and problems. And I'm going to lose my house and my wife's going to leave me. And like those people just aren't a fit. People who aren't financially properly capitalized are not a fit. You need a runway, right? Period. You need a runway. And it takes X runway to be successful in any business. You need to know your financial situation, because what I have learned over 20 years of doing this is people run out of runway. They run out of operating capital. And I will tell you, they're looking at the finish line. And it really pains me to see, because when I drive down Main Street and I see a closure, I know what that family went through. I know what they've invested in, the build out, the construction, the permitting, the time, the leverage, the debt. It does. It hurts. And I'm always in a call with my wife, and it's not just, oh my goodness, that restaurant failed. I immediately go to, what is that couple experiencing right now? Because some of them mortgage their future, like literally. They've taken money from the education fund. They've taken money from their home. They've taken money from family to make their dream a reality, and they fail. And they just go into these things all wrong. They don't plan properly. They don't have adequate capital. They don't have the right mindset. There are people, my business partner and I, Justin, we co-founded the firm. We've come up with this like word picture that I'll share with you. If I told you that McDonald's is a license to print money. So let's just start with that statement, right? McDonald's, Chick-fil-A is a license to print money. If I told you that there were 73 sesame seeds on the bun, right? 73. That's what the market wants, craves, because it's a license to print money. There is a massive population that will scrape those sesame seeds off because they know better than the brand. Those people are the problem. They're the problem. It's also those people who say, I could buy that French fry grease way cheaper at this vendor. It's like you're not understanding the grease. You're not understanding the flavor profile. You're not understanding the millions of dollars that went into understanding the exact amount of sodium, the exact amount of grease, the exact amount of crispiness, the exact temperature, the exact time. You're not understanding. Everything has been properly planned out. Again, I use the word everything has been obsessed over. They don't get it. And those people will change everything, and they're the ones who fail. And I've created wealth by buying businesses from those people. That's how I started when I entered franchising. I would go after brands with solid fundamentals operated by people that are not following the model. We would pay them 10 cents on the dollar, turn those businesses around in under 12 months, annualizing 6 figures in net income, and then sell them for a nosebleed multiple. That's what we did. No different from your world of finding a crappy house and seeing the gem of the neighborhood, the great school districts, right? Whatever, the revitalization of the neighborhood, and flipping it and creating wealth through flipping of real estate. It's the same concept, except we did it with small businesses, mainly franchises.
Cliff, do you mind if I share a little bit about mindset? Because that really sparked my interest in the
Love
mindset.
mindset, please.
So for me, in that book that I wrote, it's really about a person's relationship with money. And this starts back when they're young. So for someone like you must have had a healthy relationship with money. You didn't go to college. You didn't care. You just wanted to make money and you had a good relationship with money. You might have been raised in a family where they talked about money, where it wasn't avoided. You may have heard some negative stuff, but your relationship was a lot healthier. You see a lot of these people that are naysayers or are scared about money, or there's fear. Growing up myself, immigrant family, both parents always taught to save for a rainy day, never for a sunny day, right? Always about that fear. And that may bring yourself into adulthood. So if you're listening to this right now, say to yourself, well, what's my relationship with money? Because most of us don't even ask that. We're just doing things so unconsciously every day and creating the same patterns. How can Cliff and Gino make money in the ventures we're doing? We're not smarter than anybody else. I really, truly think that we've got a much better relationship with money. What it is, it's just a tool. It just amplifies, right? It creates impact in other people's lives. And we just have learned how to use it. There's rules to money. And I think the franchising model is a rule of being able to create it. And you said in our multifamily space, it's very similar to what you're doing. We're buying an asset properly, we're financing it properly, and then on the back end, the managing of that asset is really building the systems and the processes and adding value. You're increasing your net operating income, which is how you value the asset. And once that asset reaches a certain point, you can either refinance it, pull the capital out, and continue to hold it, or you exit it. Either way, that's where you create your true wealth, is that exit strategy. Very similar buying a business and buying real estate. If people understood that's what real estate's all about. I mean, for us, we have a couple of benefits. We have great tax benefits. We have the longevity. We have, basically a payment of every month if you're doing the dividend. There's a lot of different similar benefits, but there's a lot of similarities to what you're doing. Cliff, I want to jump into, if you want to add anything to that, I'd love to hear.
I actually do. I love what you just said. I actually do want to add to that. And I find that I want to go back to your relationship with money. I hear from a lot of people, they like to attack wealthy people, right? They envy the wealthy. They despise the wealthy. They feel they have too much. We do live in a society where we're supposed to feel bad that we have more than the average person and we should give it to them. I just respectfully disagree with all that. What you think about, you bring about, and thoughts become things. And if you're constantly shitting on wealthy people, you're basically rejecting wealth.
That's right.
You're rejecting money. And that does become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you start to rewire your brain. If I see a penny, I respect. When I say respect, I don't hold it above my family or my health. I have a relationship with money where if I see pennies that have fallen out of pockets on the side in the gym, I'm picking it up. I have a great respect. I do. And every time I pick it up, there's always someone around me, and there's always 10 people who walked over it. And I always say, like, only in America. And then I always recite my same mantra when I grab money. It's like wealth, health, and happiness is my mantra. And I put it in my pocket and I go about my day. I will never step over a penny. I'm never too busy to pick it up.
You know why?
I just have a different relationship with it. I love what you said.
You know why? It's because you've worked hard and you've earned it. And you put in the blood, sweat, and tears. And that's very important what you said. If you are hating wealth, if you see a person driving a Lambo down the street and you're criticizing them, what people say is about them. What you hear is about you. So if you're criticizing that person for Lambo, ask yourself why. What did that person do? This is not a zero-sum game in the world. In real estate, I'm buying a property from somebody. That person is probably, in all likelihood, made money on that deal over the years, and I've got the ability to make money. So it's not like he loses, I win. That's how the economy works. What they're trying to do is trying to split people apart, and there's so much wealth in this country right now that you can go out and get yours. But what you're saying is, oh my gosh, if if I'm sitting there and I'm just hating it, I will never attract it. And if I do, I'm not gonna, I don't want to hold it because I have such a negative feeling about it and I don't want to be seen by my peers to have money. You just need to make that decision. I mean, do you want to live like that? That's okay. I'm not here to judge you. Just understand, to me, that's faulty reasoning. Make all the money you can because money can't buy happiness, but poverty can't buy anything. And that's the reality. And last thing I'll say is my priest friend, great friend of mine, says no margin, no mission. If you don't have any margin in what you're trying to accomplish, you can't create a mission. Even Jesus needed, the apostles there, and he needed them to carry around the purse to have enough money to go to different towns to preach. Judas was there, the money guy. He was the one, maybe not a good choice in the grand scheme of things, but he knew what he was doing. But you need that, and that's the unfortunate thing. Now, what happens is, I'll give you one more quote that I love. Money does not corrupt people. It reveals people. That's the reality. And you see what's going on in Congress with Doge right now. Everyone's freaking out. Dude, that's the reality. And I know we should be talking about franchising, but this is important to build the foundation or the framework before you even go and buy a franchise or invest 700 grand into a venture. You need to have a great foundation and a great mindset because there's going to be a lot of kicks in the balls and punches in the face. And if you don't have a great partner and or foundation, it will crumble.
It's so true. Yeah. Remember Jerry Maguire? Like, if this ain't right, like this don't matter, and vice versa. You got to get your headspace right. You got to get your mindset right. Otherwise, you're just not going to accomplish anything. I completely agree with everything you're saying. But you had a question. I'm sorry. And
No, that's okay. Actually, I just got to go back and I'm going to record that and I'm going to show that to my wife because no one ever completely agrees with me. So that was the highlight of the show right there. So,
ditto.
Anyway, the important thing I want to convey now is the franchise model. When I'm looking at a franchise, what do you? As far as systems, processes, obviously you're going to go Chick-fil-A and you're going to go into McDonald's. But when I'm looking at a franchise, what should I be looking for when I'm buying a franchise? What are the ones that stand out that work really well for the franchisee?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So the first thing we tell people is stop talking about brands. That's the first thing. Everyone, yeah, okay. Absolutely. Yes. Everyone wants to start the process and they want to jump on the internet and start clicking on things. They want to drive down Main Street and say, oh, I see myself doing that. I see myself doing that. And we're like, time out. Stop talking about brands. What do you want? What are your investment objectives? Why are you here? What phase of life are you in? Well, I got 3 young kids and I want to buy a restaurant. All right, you're going to be a shit dad and a horrible spouse. And like that, just reality. Like that. Let's say it. We've got to a place where we have silenced the intelligent to not offend the stupid. And I mean, we have. So it's refreshing and it's quite liberating.
Right. I agree completely with you right there. So
no, it's that scene out of Tommy Boy where the guy goes, does this suit make me look fat? And he goes, no, your face does. Like nobody talks like that, right? Nobody just says the truth anymore. So we're always dancing. We're always being sensitive. We want to be, it's like you need to have mindfulness. You got to be thoughtful. What is this new thing? You need to have emotional intelligence. No, I'm just going to say it. This is the reality. You're a young dad. You only have 100,000 liquid, right? You have a heavy amount of debt. You don't have a working spouse. You have no cash flow. You're taking on huge risks. Who's going to tell you that? Because in my business, we have what's called commission breath. Everyone wants to jam someone in a deal to get paid at the expense of the investor, right? We end up just telling people, focus on, let's talk about you. Let's talk about where you are in life. Let's talk about what you're comfortable investing. Let's talk about debt. Let's talk about the fact that the US dollar is worthless, but insanely expensive to borrow right now, right? SBA loans are over 12%. That's credit card money. So you're borrowing a few hundred grand from the SBA, and it's not a 30-year repayment period. It's 7 to 10. So that's a big number, and that could be a lot of your profit. So to answer your question, we get more into the investor, know your client. My favorite line is prognosis before diagnosis is malpractice. Know your client, know why they're here, know what the investment objectives are. And most investors lack discipline, which is why most people will never be wealthy. They don't have discipline. They're highly emotional and irrational, and they make silly financial decisions like buy high, sell low, which is what everyone is doing right now in crypto. They're all buying every pop they buy, and then on the corrections they end up selling. And they're like, "Yeah, crypto sucks." Crypto doesn't suck. Like there's a lot of things that don't suck. What sucks is your lack of investment discipline and the fact that you keep chasing things and you really don't have a written investment discipline to create wealth. So that's what we bring to the table first: discipline, right? Writing down the investment objectives. I want to retire in 25 years. I need to make $300,000. I only want to invest 50 grand. I only want to do this. We get to that. And now we're looking at now we enter brand selection. We know the client, we know the investment objectives. Now let's start talking about brands. We definitely want to look at the brand's proof of concept. I don't get excited about 4 locations. That doesn't excite me at all. Oh, we have 4 locations. That's wonderful. It's a great starting conversation. But this is a brand new investor client of mine. I don't want to put him in a brand with 4 locations. So we want proof of concept. And it can't be in Southern California with household income of 300 grand in a 5-mile radius. That didn't prove anything in Kansas or Tampa, right? Or some suburb in Texas. So we want to make sure that we have a brand that's operating throughout the United States in different markets, different demographics, and we have, again, I quote, proof of concept. I like to know that the brand is properly capitalized, and I like to know that we have a strong executive team. I like to know that they have a strong training support system. And when I say strong, can the franchisee validate this? Did you feel job ready day one? No, you didn't. That means the training has failed you. You need to be job ready day one. People are joining brands with 0 direct industry experience. I need to go to training, get into the field, and be job ready day one, right? So that is super important. Did they support you after training? I hear from them once every 6 months. Okay, like I'm already out. And we do this. We close the loop on all of this during what we call validation. Once we send the client out into the system and randomly dialing existing franchisees that bought before them. You see, existing franchisees don't care if you buy or not. They really don't. They only care when you tell them that you're 2 miles from their location. Then they care. But if you're in Florida and you're calling someone in Arizona, you're calling someone in Texas, they don't view you as a threat. They're going to answer your questions honestly, and they'll give you the time. But once you tell them that you're operating 2, 3, 5 miles down the street, everything changes. We call it NIMBY, not in my backyard. Right? No, you're not. Right? So they're very territorial that way. So there's a lot that goes into the due diligence cycle. We spend 3 to 4 months, by the way, doing this. So when we onboard a client, the entire due diligence phase takes 3 to 4 months to close the loop and to honestly get to a place where you can say, I'm in or I'm out, and these are the reasons why. Great. We feel like we've done our job. Legal review, right? Getting professionals involved. Really understand the unit economics, a pro forma, understanding the brand, understanding how to read an FDD, how to look for bankruptcies, how to look for lawsuits, how to look for failures, how to look for growth of a system, and how to look for what we call a financial performance representation, which is an earnings claim found in every FDD under section item 19. So we really help the client understand, okay, I can read this legal document. It's actually a tool. It doesn't just put me to sleep. Right? It's a 300-page document that no one wants to read, but there's some vitals in that document. Like I said, background of the founder, bankruptcies, lawsuits, earnings claims, audited financials of the franchisor. You can look right in there in an exhibit. You're like, wait a second, the franchisor only has $50,000 in cash. Like, that's a problem. They have no runway. They're worried about you. They're the problem. They're not going to make it. So there's a lot that goes into educating the client. And again, it takes 3-4 months. So we're not literally puking on the client and doing a data dump. We're doing this over a period of 3-4 months and really helping them navigate the process and make a good financial decision. We call ourselves good fiduciaries and good stewards of the investor's money.
Very similar. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Please.
it's very, very similar to if you are a capital raiser. It's not about how much that person can give you. Is that person even qualified to give you the money? And that's sales 101. Really, you're just have to ask questions, and you have to make sure that this person has enough money in the bank. Where are they getting the money from? Can they keep the money with you for at least 5 to 7 year period? Are they going to go homeless if you lose them their money? Do they understand the risks? Is it part of their money persona? Do they want to even be in real estate? Or are they just like the crypto, the high flyers? It's important to understand all that. You're building building the foundation? Man, I have so many questions here. So my next one would be, if I'm looking at it, and I think you made the choice about brands, but what's a hot franchise right now as far as, is it home services? I mean, I want to stay away from restaurants because I'm sick of making 2 or 3% and taking all that risk, and just I don't want. I didn't get into franchising with mine because I had an Italian restaurant, and I know the quality is not going to be there. So my food was amazing. So I was like, I struggled with that. I didn't want to give up on the quality because I know you need the systems. I know you need the freaking 7 tomatoes on the focaccia's pizza, and I just couldn't let go of the control. So I wasn't a good candidate to franchise my own concept because it would have been very difficult, at least in my mind. I know that's a limiting belief now, but back at then, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But what are some franchise, I guess, companies like insulation,
Yeah.
painting? What are you looking
Great
at right
question.
now?
Great question. I'm anti-food at the moment. And the reason I'm anti-food, just to put that out for the audience and just to add some value, inflation has destroyed the food space. Okay.
Great point. Yes, I
So
agree.
back in the day, if you were making a 15% net in food, if you were doing 1 million in revenue as a small restaurateur and you were putting 150 grand in your pocket, you were successful. You were running your business by the numbers, strong KPIs. You were running your cost of goods right where they're supposed to be. Your labor number was right. You're doing a great job. You are officially a restaurateur making 15% net on, let's say, 1 million in revenue. Today, fast forward, every area of our life has increased. Oh
Is it
man,
5% now?
I think you're a rock star if you're doing 5 to 8% net in a restaurant. White tablecloth is struggling. They're losing customers to the TGI Fridays and the Chili's. Everyone has moved. We've really reshuffled the deck. If you're white tablecloth, you lost those people. They can't afford it anymore. They're going to what you would call the middle, like the Applebee's and the stuff like that. And then the Applebee's customers like, man, I can't afford this anymore. They went to the QSR, the quick service restaurant space, which is more fast food. You're starting to see so many dynamic shifts with consumer spending. The consumer's broke. They're heavily leveraged in credit card debt. They can barely afford to feed themselves at a grocery store, let alone go out. So I'm at the moment, and I say at the moment because look, I'm an investor. I reserve the right to change my mind. Cycles change. Look at how we get whipsawed, unfortunately, every 4 years now.
You're an
We're being
intelligent investor. It's an
whipsawed.
intelligent investor. You're being objective. Like you're not having any emotions tied to something, or you're not blinded by something. Your ego and your pride is being shed because you're saying, "Hey, I could have made a mistake. I may be wrong right now, but I don't know. So I have to keep my options open." And that's what an intelligent investor does. They reserve the right to say, "Hey, I made a mistake 6 months ago. I shouldn't have sold. What do I do now to correct that mistake? Or what did I learn from that to take it forward?"
Right, exactly. I don't get emotionally involved in any of these things. It's to me, they're all math problems. They're all execution problems. They're operational problems. They're sales problems. Right. I'm not going to get emotional. When you speak to restaurateurs, it's all passion. There's never an investment reason to invest in food. It's just all I love cooking. It reminds me of my
Yeah.
dad. It reminds me of this one. It's always these platitudes and just good feelings. And then they get into it and they're like, holy crap, this sucks. I got to get out. Right? It just seems to be the case. So I'm anti-food. Let's talk about like what we do like. We're living in a time. Remember, we're on a podcast, you and I, Gino, right now, where we've announced cryptocurrency, we've announced artificial intelligence, we've announced robotics with Optimus at Tesla, we've announced quantum computing. I can't even comprehend quantum computing for what it is and what it's going to do. With all that being said, I'm looking at business that are anti-online and anti-AI. First category that I love happens to be, boom, home services, right? Anything involving tools. We're writing a book as well, and it's called Going Beyond the Brand. So the title of the book is Beyond the Brand. It's going to be released middle of this year. And
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, we're excited about it. And it
It's a
talks about
lot of work,
everything.
brother. It's a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to write that thing.
I give you a ton of credit for doing it and going through it. It is a lot of work. People think that it's like a badge of honor or some rite of passage as an entrepreneur. It is a ton of work. You're putting your name on it. It is insanely stressful. You want it to be perfect. Once it's done, it's done. Like it's printed. Like you said it. It's either going to age well or not. right? Like seriously, you got to be really. I love what in the media with all these politicians, right? And then they replay clips from 5 years ago. It's like, we should never have gone to war with Ukraine. Then you go back and it's like, we need to fight for Ukraine. It's like, do these people not realize that you're being recorded like 24/7 every day, and they still lie and make up and change their tune? Anyway, the book is the book, and once you put it in print, it's done. Yes, you could revise it and go through a second edition, but still. So, what do we like? Home services. I refer to this category as the feminization of men in America. That's my title. Why do I say that? And it's not to be political. We've literally shit on the trades for the last 20 years in this country, told every child to go to college, go into debt about $150, never be able to afford a house, live with mom in the basement till you're 35, 40, right? All for what? A gender degree, a political sciences degree, a degree that you paid 150 grand for that you will never be able to monetize. And because we told them, you can't do a trade, you can't be a plumber. Like, who's going to be proud of that? Wrong. Be a plumber, be an electrician, be a tradesman, be a profession. We call them trades, they're professions. I agree with Vivek. It's a profession, and it's a noble profession. We need more tradespeople. We need hardworking men and women that are out doing our infrastructure, spray foam injection, roofing, window replacement, siding, concrete, you name it. We need those things. They're AI proof. These people are going to run the world going forward. Believe me when I tell you, this technology of AI, ChatGPT, Grok, this technology is turning its sights on white collar workers. I don't think people are getting it yet. I don't need a lawyer. Do you know we did an eviction in the state of Florida using ChatGPT? We told it, you're a Florida attorney and you're going to give me step-by-step eviction in the state of Florida by law. Boom, 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 evicted the tenant out in 2 weeks. No attorney.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Think about it. So this is where we're going. It's like, okay, you already lost money. Wordsmithing, graphic designers, we don't need it. We've terminated these people. They were third-party vendors to us, paying them $5,000 a month. We got rid of all of them. We're using ChatGPT. They've come up with more graphic designs. They've come up with more wordsmithing. They've come up with everything better. So the trades, the professions, the home services, love it. And I want to stick with the feminization of men in America. Testosterone therapy, we're destroying men. We are literally destroying men. There are brands that are backfilling all this stuff by doing testosterone therapy, by doing hormone therapy for men and women, by doing sensory deprivation and red light therapy and anti-aging, and all that stuff falls under that category. Next, the aging of America. We call it the silver tsunami. This country's aging like Japan at a rapid rate. I will mark my words, because this does get recorded. We will end up in a situation in America where we are financially incentivizing couples to, one, get married, and then paying them again to have babies. We're not repopulating this country. We're just not. So not only are we aging, we're not repopulating. That is a double negative. Look at Japan's culture. Horrible what's happening over there. They're an ancient civilization, and we're doing the same thing they did. It's crazy. So home care, mobility, grab bars, ramps. There is an ungodly amount of money being made in all those things at the local level. Renting, repairing scooters, wheelchairs, striker beds, assisted chair lifts, all that stuff. Huge. Third category, since we're aging, not repopulating, we end up buying a lot of dogs and pets, and we humanize them. We humanize them. This is a big difference. Owning an animal is one thing. Humanizing it, giving it a spa treatment, a birthday party, clothing, letting them sleep in the master bedroom. This humanization is a $160 billion business. So anything pet training, pet grooming, pet boarding, anything in that pet space, I love. Next category is going to be the anti-aging, the biohacking, the beauty, the vanity, the peptides, the NACs, the testosterone, all that stuff. Huge. Huberman, Osprey, Atia. This is a big conversation now. You and I can log into a podcast to learn about biohacking, anti-aging. They just came, but Brian Johnson just did a documentary on Netflix called Don't Die, right? This guy lowered his metabolic age into the 40s. His skin has the metabolic age of a 10-year-old. How did he do it? Red light therapy. How did he do it? I looked for nutrition deficiencies, right? All these stuff, mineral deficiencies in his body, constantly tweaking and refining. This is becoming a big deal. Like, what's the point of being rich if you're not going to be able to enjoy your money into your 80s and 90s, right? And cognitive failure. You got to remain sharp cognitively as we age. And then lastly, Since our school systems have failed, I give them an F across the country, public schools, an absolute F. They have taken away all the things that make a child a productive, confident human being. They killed sports, they killed music, they killed art, they killed welding, they killed all the trades. I went to high school. I did welding, oxyacetylene welding, spot welding, TIG welding. In high school, we built furniture. We went to home economics. All the dead, right? So think about it. So franchises are now backfilling science, technology, engineering, math, art, music, using both sides of your brain, learning how to compromise, learning your reasoning skills, learning problem solving. There is so much to unpack with this list and all these brands that you can get involved in. That's what we're focusing on. AI resilient and Amazon, Temu resilient brands.
Wow. I just about a year ago we bought a farm here in Florida, about half an hour from my house on the beach, and we got 18 chickens. We ended up buying too many donkeys, and about a week ago I just bought Antonio, the Black Angus cow, 5.5 months. They're pets, but Antonio's going to be food in about a year. I'm just saying, like,
I don't know how you do it.
it's going to be hard, but I think my children have to understand. Like I said, we homeschool and all, but it's one of those things where I wanted to do it, and it's incredible because I live in an affluent neighborhood. Please don't put your dog in a stroller. I mean, let the dog walk. It's just so, or you have a snuggly for the dog. That's just like the humanization of, and when they're being called cuter than kids, there's something wrong with that situation. I understand as you get older, you want to have a companion, a friend. My wife said it's not unconditional love, because if you stop feeding the dog, he ain't gonna love you. I mean, like I was like, oh, the dog's. She said, no, it's not true. And I'm like, oh, I think you're right about that. So it's one of those things where, but listen, to your point about the pet care, if you're looking to make money and you actually love pets, I think it's a great place to get into, because I could see from our residents, half the residents that we rent to, they have pets. It's incredible. They can barely pay the freaking rent, but they all have pets. It's incredible. So I love that. Great. Last question before we go to the short answers. If I'm looking at a franchise, I know it's going to be some really hard question to answer, but as far as fees and as far as what should you be looking for, as far as a framework, if it's $1, you're making $1 of income, what should those expenses be going back to franchise, marketing, sales, and all that kind of stuff?
That's a good question. I'll start with the investment and we can break down fees.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love that.
What I like to do with a client is simplify, right? Is to take the universe of brands and put them into two buckets: brick and mortar, non-brick and mortar. So they're like, okay, I already get it. Physical retail location, no physical retail location. Could be out of your house, could be out of a vehicle. You could be dispatching home care employees, whatever. Let's put them in those two buckets. Here are some general statements regarding those two. Let's start with non-brick and mortar. If you looked at any average non-brick and mortar brand, your total investment would be between 100 and 150,000 all in.
Non-brick and mortar, correct?
Non-brick and mortar.
Gotcha.
That's right. Okay. And that includes operating capital. Are some of them more expensive? Yes, but as a good general, we just talked about the aging of America. You look at home care, 150 all day long. There are dozens of brands in the home care space in that category. Pet training, 100, 150 all day long. Youth sports, 100, 150 all day long. So it's a very accurate gauge for an investment. What does that mean to the investor? Usually we want the investor to put up a minimum cash injection of 30%, and then we could finance the balance. So in non-brick and mortar, sometimes it's a little tricky for collateralization. They might have to put up a little bit more, but typically we'll tell them to put up 50 to 70 grand. We'll get them an SBA express loan for the balance. So you don't have to come up with the full 150, right? You could put up a portion of it and then you could lease the vehicle instead of paying cash for it. There's opportunities to finance those businesses. Next, brick and mortar. When I say brick and mortar, I'm talking about 1,000 to 1,500 square feet in a strip mall on Main Street. You have a visual on it. Where is your Supercuts? Where's your Great Clips? Where is your UPS store, right? Are you next to a Publix? Are you next to Winn-Dixie? Are you next to LA Fitness? Are you near a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods? Inline space. You're looking at a starting investment of around 300,000 post-COVID. So this is a post-COVID number. You're going to start your conversation at 300,000. What does that mean to the investor? Multiply it by 30%. you're going to be putting up a minimum of 90,000 cash, and then we're going to secure funding for the balance through the Small Business Administration, SBA loans. And they'll put up, so cash injection of 30, the bank will finance 70. You will never get in trouble with that math, 30-70. Can you do it for less? Of course you can. More established brands, underwriters are more comfortable. You could put up maybe 20%. A resale, maybe 10%, because it has cash flow. It has EBITDA, which is the ability to repay debt service. So we're talking right now, I'm in startup world with you, right? I'm not in resale world. Everything I gave you right now is starting a brand new franchise and putting that pin on a map somewhere in America. You want to talk about resales? Totally different conversation.
No, my next question, I said it was my last question, but I just keep having more questions. As far as costs, what does a typical franchise want to get back? Because they've got overhead, they've got different stuff. Is it 7%? Is it 8%? Is it 4%? What does that typical number look like? Or what should you be looking for? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to do a range because I think it's a safe range. I think 5 to 10% is a standard range for a franchisor when it comes to a royalty. The upfront fees, which is the one-time initial franchise fee, you're looking on average between 30 and 50,000. That's a safe range. 30 to 50,000. It's a one-time upfront fee. You now join the brand. You're part of the franchise system. Rights to likeness, use their trademark, et cetera, et cetera. Operations manuals, everything. Now, what's ongoing? The ongoing fees are normally the royalty and a national marketing fee. Royalties can range depending on the brand between 5 and 10%. And you usually will see ranges in national advertising between 1 and 5%. When you get to the high level, you're talking Dunkin', and you're getting up there now where you're on national television. No one is paying 3, 4, 5% national advertising if you're not actually nationally advertising, right? A lot of young brands will charge 1, 2%. Because they're really just going to do an aggressive digital marketing campaign. They don't have enough money to get on national TV or XM satellite radio, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor. This episode of the Jake and Gino podcast is brought to you by Wheelbarrow Profits, the premier multifamily education community. Wheelbarrow Profits proof is in their results. Their members have closed over 86,000 units. That's over $5 billion in student deal volume. Are you serious about taking your real estate game to the next level? Do you have the confidence to take action? Schedule a call with the Wheelbarrow Profits team today and supercharge your real estate knowledge. Build lasting relationships through unparalleled networking opportunities. Obtain lasting knowledge on how to buy multifamily real estate with intensive training. Gain hands-on experience through their live events with like-minded individuals and industry professionals, all while experiencing the personal touch and family atmosphere that set them apart. Visit wheelbarrowprofits.com for more information. And we are back. Now, Cliff, I've got 18 restaurants. Don't ask me why I did restaurants. You just told me not to. But I've got the idea that I want to franchise this thing. I don't want to. I've got some good systems in here. My marinara sauce is pretty good. I've got this focaccia bread that I could really cook and I could stabilize it. I could put 5 items on the menu. How do I even start the process? Because I told you earlier on that I had a company called The Brothers That Just Do Gutters. They started back in 2010. And I'm like, what are these guys nuts? They're trying to franchise this? Gutters? This is crazy. But I was looking at it from the technician's standpoint, as Mr. Gerber says in E-Myth. I wasn't looking at it from the entrepreneurial standpoint. And I give them a ton of credit. They have crushed it over the last 10 years. And it's incredible. But they started with something. They were doing YouTube videos in the back of their parking lot. I'm like, what are these guys doing? Like, how do you even start conceiving of putting it? Because there's a lot of businesses out there that should probably be franchising because it's about creating more wealth and creating more impact. So how do they even start that concept?
Okay, before I answer that, I'm still digesting that you named your Black Angus Antonio, which I think is awesome. So, like, that's still in there. I think that's great. Antonio, I love it. That's hilarious.
I got Lucy and Buttercup as a donkey. So
right.
Lucy and Buttercup are the donkeys. And
you guys are good. You're good at naming. I love it. So I want to say something about Brothers That Just Do Gutters. And I think because there's a lesson in there, especially in business. When you speak to people and it's like, what do you do? Oh, I own this company. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do. I'm like, wow, you offer a lot of services. And I don't agree with that logic at all because you know what I've never seen create wealth is a general practitioner doctor. They want to be involved in everything and they make like 140 grand a year, right? And then there's the anesthesiologist making 5 to 700. Then there's the right. Then there's
Yes.
the urologist making several hundred. It's like, you know what? Don't brag about doing all these things. Be a surgeon, be a specialist. Don't be a generalist in business. Do something, do it well, master your craft, laser focus on it, be the best at it. Anytime I see these businesses like the UPS store, yeah, we do passport photos. Yeah, we rent mailboxes. Yeah, we sell bubble wrap. I know, because you could barely make money doing what your core competency is, which is why you look like a Greek diner menu with all these services trying to eke out a living. I hate it. UPS store, it just drives me nuts when I see all these services. So that brings me back to brothers that just do gutters. You know what the average revenue is of this brand? I think it's over 2 million a year average. Can you imagine bumping shoulders with the average guy at convention? And it's like they're averaging over 2 million. They do one thing really well. They own it. They own the internet. They own the content. They own the lead generation for seamless gutters. They just own it. Remarkable brand. I love the focus. You don't have to be a jack of all trades, maker of nothing in business. Just do something and be really, really good at it. But to answer your question about, you have an idea, you had the best, focaccia bread, you got the best marinara, so you got the best of everything. You have to want, franchising is a really heavy lift and a massive investment. I call it franchise hell between 1 and 100 locations, make no mistake. If you're at 60 locations, it may seem successful. The brand is still living in franchise hell. You don't have enough royalty sustaining revenue. You want to be royalty sustaining in franchising, and many of them are still making a living off of bringing in franchise fees or figuring out how to do a secondary offering and do some, angel or some VC money and so on. They're
So
trying to
this is
figure out how
why
to capitalize.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. So this is why you said earlier you want a franchise with some established locations, because they're not really viable. They're not cash flow positive. They don't have enough money to pay their bills, and you may get stuck with somebody who's going out of business. So that's a great tip. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's important.
No,
Go back and listen to that before. So it's important. I didn't even think of that. Great point.
royalty sustainability is everything in franchising, because what you're saying is that we are sustaining this business enterprise as a franchisor on royalties alone. So they're like, oh, wow. So the rebates we're getting from this, that adds to the bottom line. Oh, and the franchise fee income, that adds as well. And then the national ad fund, that goes into a separate account for the sole purposes of branding the company. You're in a really good spot
Oh yeah.
in that situation. And of course, you have these brands where they have average revenue of 300 grand. You look at a Subway. Subway's revenues are really not that impressive. Their net is even worse. Like if you're making 35 to 55 grand a year owning a Subway, I think you're doing okay. It's which is why everyone owns three, because now you're making $1.50 hopefully. So when you look at some of these brands, really dig in on the unit economics, really understand the franchisor and their sustainability and where they're grabbing capital from or who owns them. A lot of brands today are owned by larger entities like private equity firms. Private equity firms have a love affair with franchisors. They love buying that royalty, the scalability. And in franchise, you get a hell of a multiple. You could see multiples at the franchisor level at 10 to 15% of EBITDA because of the future growth prosperity of buying a brand and scaling it internationally. So if you have an idea and you want to scale it, as I said, we tell the truth. You will enter franchise hell in the beginning. It's going to take you a while to grow your baby. You're going to need a ton of money to do it. You will constantly be reinvesting in that brand. And the way to do it is to probably reach out to someone like us so we could align you with the professionals that could actually make you a franchisor legally and then register your brand throughout the United States so you could legally begin the process of selling and sub-franchising.
How can they reach out to you? What's the best place?
Franosity.com. So FRANOCITY.com. And I'm Cliff N at Franosity.com.
I'm not letting you off that easy. I still got a couple more questions. I mean, we can go
Yeah,
for
go
the next
ahead. Listen,
everybody.
I'm here at the pleasure of you, Gino.
It's interesting because one question pops another question, and as you start building it, I'd be remiss to not ask you or forget to ask you is how have you been able to scale? Give me some tips on scaling for the listener, because I think it's important that you're a franchisor. If you're a franchisee, you're doing well. Maybe you want to buy another one. Maybe, what are some of those things that you need to think about as far as scaling your operations?
Proper capitalization. I will give the audience a tip on scaling multiple units in franchising, and I see this mistake made a lot.
I would love that.
A person will come to the table with $300,000 and say, "I'm going to go all in on location number one. I don't want any debt."
Oh,
I had the pillow talk conversation with my spouse. They don't want to take on increased debt because I'm going to lose the income from my. So we're going to go all in. Here's the problem with that, and a severe unintended consequence. When you're ready to scale location number two, where's the powder that's dry? Where's the cash? Well, it's right here, and it's successful. You put all of your money in location number one, so you don't have the cash injection requirement for the SBA for location number two. No, but this is successful. It's not enough. You have to meet underwriting requirements to do a deal. So my attitude is you fully leverage location number one. You keep your powder dry. You keep that cash triaged. Now you're ready to scale location number two. You should be looking for real estate for location number two nearly the day you opened location number one, right? Because people rush site selection. It's an art and a science. You need the car counts, you need the street visibility, you need the size, you need the anchor tenant. There's so much that goes into site selection, lease negotiation in commercial real estate. Don't rush it. So start looking immediately, really understand where you're going to grow, really understand data on where your customers are coming from. Don't cannibalize your business by opening up location number one. You put too close to it. Now you're cannibalizing number one. Yeah, you're doing $500,000 here. You were doing 700 here. Now this is doing 5 and this is doing 5. You've accomplished nothing. You're eating your own flesh. You just took customers from your own location. People do it all the time because they rush. This is where they lack that discipline. So to scale properties, proper capitalization, it's like real estate. You make your profit in real estate the day you bought that asset. It's the day you bought it, you locked in your profit because you bought it right. So many people buy it wrong and they're like, yeah, but it's going to grow. And in the future, I have no plans on selling it. And then they can't go through any economic cycles. They're like, holy crap, I grossly overpaid for that asset. You make your money in everything the day you buy it. That's the day you made your money. And everyone knows it that knows investing, right? They just do.
yeah, I agree with you. I
No one
agree.
chases it. You can't chase it. You can't overpay for it. You got to really be right. Scaling has everything to do with lease negotiation. Be very careful on personal guarantee exposure. Be careful on the term of the lease that you negotiate. Be careful on all those terms. Read that language. Be careful on relocation clauses where the landlord has the right to relocate you. Be careful on all that stuff because we reserve the right as entrepreneurs to change our mind and say, this location sucks. I need to be on wheels. I got to move it. I got to get out of here. I'm going to die here. You can't be locked in. So I have a 20 plus point mandate on commercial lease negotiation to successfully scale a small business. It's invaluable. I learned it over the decades of being in this industry and all the mistakes that I have seen. And one of them is locking in 10 years, straight 10s, straight 10 personal guarantees. You're going nowhere. You're going nowhere. And don't tell me, well, I'm next to Bed Bath and Beyond. Who's your anchor tenant? Circuit City. Who's your anchor tenant? Builder Square. They're not going anywhere. They're huge. Really? Linens and things? Right. What Best Buy? They're not going anywhere. We have seen big boxes close. We've seen anchor tenants close. And there aren't enough big box retailers taking over those spaces. You see it all the time. 6, 7, 20, 30,000 square feet. Empty, sitting there in a strip mall. Nobody wants it. What? Why? Right? So don't do a deal because of an anchor tenant, because that anchor tenant may not be there much longer. Scaling through people and really building a business. Here's a big issue, what I see in scaling. We grow up, unfortunately, with people who tell us these things. If you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. Worst advice you will ever get in your lifetime, and it will absolutely keep you poor. I guarantee you.
100%.
Thank you. Anyone who lives by that, could you imagine if Sam Walton, Steve Jobs, all these innovators said, nope, I have to do it. I need to work the register. I need to work the loading dock. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Absolutely wrong. You have to buy a business with this in mind. I'm buying a business that is a successful business enterprise that does not rely on my day-to-day involvement. That's a business, and that's how you scale. Management, KPIs, clearly written KPIs. Like I obsess over that stuff in business where it's like, nope, Your labor is off 2%. No one has these conversations like, man, we weren't that profitable this month. Why? What attributed to not being profitable this month, right? Constantly selling, constantly marketing, keeping that reach and frequency of branding out there, always grooming, always interviewing. Just because you hired a manager and assistant manager, why would you stop interviewing? Always look for talent, always be recruiting someone, because when you find that rock star, you're going to wish you had that third location to put them in to help you scale the business. I think it's almost an episode in itself, like scaling a bit. Honestly, I think it's a great question that it doesn't get asked enough. My head's about to explode, like all the things that need to occur, right, to actually scale a small business to 5, 10, 15 locations.
And sometimes, Cliff, to be honest with you, I read the book Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. Sometimes you don't have to scale. Sometimes that's not your relationship with money. You don't want to be the next Steve Jobs. That's okay. You have to have the conversation with Cliff to see what your goals are. Just because the internet tells you things like, you've heard of cash is trash. Well, is that true? I bet you more people had cash now than they did a few years ago. It's interesting. Learn yourself. Just because everyone's telling you need to scale, sometimes you don't need to scale. Maybe you're happy at 2 or 3 locations. My last question is, if I'm looking to buy a franchise, because I think there's going to be tons of opportunities in this next market cycle. It's very similar to real estate. Debt is getting more expensive. We're kicking the can down the road. A lot of these businesses, we've been in a recession, in my opinion, for the last 18 months. I don't care what the numbers tell you. It's been that way for 18 months. It's only going to get worse before it gets better. There has to be pain before there's pleasure. That's the reality. How do I go about buying a franchise? Where can I find these businesses being sold, and who can I contact?
So thank you. So my firm, Franosity, we provide a free service. Nobody believes free, but it's very similar to realtors, where we represent the buyer for free and we're compensated by the seller. So my world is the same. So if a listener called us and said, I want to buy a franchise and learn about it, how much? We're free to the buyer. There are no games. You sign nothing. You're committed to nothing. And I tell everyone, you're not buying anything. All you're doing right now is exploring, is franchising the investment vehicle for you? Is it? Like, let's do that introspective self. Let's figure out, are you a fit? Can you follow a proven system? Do you fit in this box? Are you too entrepreneurial? Right? So when people come to us, it's a free service. We represent over 600 brands, right? 600 brands that are serious about scaling their concept across the country. We will typically introduce the client to 5, and we will conduct due diligence on at least 3 to 5 of those brands. We could always reshuffle the deck, but reaching out to us, doing an initial consultation, understanding what they want. And I completely agree with what you said. All these pods and all these influence, it's all about rich, 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 wealth, wealth, wealth. Some people, they love their family. They want to just be with them constantly. They don't want to get on an airplane. They want to be home. They want to be the best dad or the best mom or the best whatever, the best friend, right? They don't want to disconnect from people. They don't care about scaling a business. They just want to own a small company and retire uncompromised. That's their goal. And maybe endow a foundation or care for an elderly parent or intervene meaningfully in the life of their children or grandchildren. That's their investment objectives. And I love that. And I wish I could be more like that, quite frankly. I wish I could just be more chill and not have to constantly be grinding it out and want more and more and more and more houses and more stuff and more investments. I wish I could be a little more relaxed that way with money. And I envy them to a degree. So like, I'm very happy. I'm content. I have no stress. So you're right. Sometimes we call them Chuck in a truck. The guy will reach out to us and say, I lost my job. What do you want? I just want my 80 grand back. It's like, okay, buy this, become a handyman, do spray foam insulation, do pressure washing. What did you do? I used to trim trees, buy a tree trim, make 100 grand, be happy.
Yeah.
And they're happy. So you're right. Thanks for saying that, because it's true. I don't want to be the guy that's like, don't call me unless you want to scale wealth. Whatever you want, you're the client. It's your life. It's your retirement plans. It's your family.
Well,
Tell me,
Cliff, it's interesting because these things that we're saying, they're not sexy for the internet. It's just not. And when you're telling people that to scale is not to scale, and when you said before, this may not be for you, No one in their right mind would go on the internet and say, hey, buy a franchise, but it may not be for you. That doesn't sell, right? Because you don't have the commish breath. You don't need to make the sale because your brain is more important than that sale. And people don't realize that. You've been through a couple of market cycles. You don't need the sale because you know long term you'll be okay. And the person, my whole mission when I was teaching real estate multifamily education was, we are here to teach you how to not buy real estate. Because if I could teach you what a deal doesn't look like, what a bad deal looks like, and you're not going to buy that deal, when a good deal comes along, you're like, wow, this is a good deal now. So that is first and foremost, I think, your mission as well. You're looking not to buy a franchise or this bad location or this bad business. I'm here to teach you what a good one looks like. And a good one may never come along. But listen, no bad franchise. What is it? No deal is better than a bad deal, right? No franchise is better than a bad franchise. I'd rather not have you put 150 grand in and lose all that money 2 years later. And it's not even the money. It's the time and the anxiety and the stress and the pressure and those lonely days and nights of you think you did something wrong when in reality, all you did is you tried to take a risk and go after a dream. And it's better that you did that looking back at it and then having the regret of never doing it.
That's right. That's right. Fear kills way more dreams than failure ever has. And people, you're so right. Well said. You can't top that.
Cliff, I'm going to have you on in the next couple of months to do one on scaling.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I think it's important as we wrap this up because there's a conversation coming from the franchise side and people, doing it. But then, hey, listen, if you're operating a franchise, that's another conversation in and of itself. Well, you've got one. Should I buy more? That's the first question. And more importantly, maybe going to different ventures. I'm in home services. Maybe I do a restaurant. Maybe I have a gutter company and I want to get into a flooring company because they may work symbiotically, those multiple streams of revenue. And there's so many options in so many ways to really build that wealth. Cliff, once again, where can the listeners get a hold of you?
Franosity.com, FRANOCITY.com. We also have a podcast that doesn't compete with you called Pursuit of Profit, where we only interview founders of franchise concepts. So if anyone wanted to learn, if anyone wanted to engage, I know real estate is the passion here, but if anyone wanted to just dip their toe into franchising and just listen in before engaging, some very good content, and we only interview founders of franchise brands.
I think entrepreneurship is hopefully what we try to exude here, because what we say is we teach people to become multifamily entrepreneurs. Not investors, because you're buying a business when you're buying a 3-unit or even a duplex. It's a little business. And if you can understand that and learn the systems in that, that's how you can start properly scaling the business. And it is very true what you said. You don't want to get stuck in the day-to-day minutia, or else you're going to be stuck at 22 units, clogging toilets and painting the walls. And that's not where you create true wealth. You're just doing busy work. Nothing wrong with that, once again, but understanding if your goal is really to create wealth and to create some type of time freedom, which is the irony, because someone like Cliff and myself, we think we want to create time freedom, but when we really have, we're really going towards our sole purpose and our passion. And that's what we're trying to do with money. Money gives you the autonomy to be able to do that. Cliff's doing that through selling franchises and helping others achieve that goal. So you're not trying to make more money. You're trying to make more money to create autonomy for yourself. So, hey, if you want to buy the 15th franchise, you can. Or if you want to go on the beach, you can do that as well. But most of you out there listening, if you've got 15 franchises, you're really not looking to go to the beach. Trust me. I tried to do that for about a week and a half, and I was like, dude, I can't do this. This sucks. You know what I'm saying? So people that are wired to be in business just don't think like that. They think they do, but once they realize they found something they love, they're like, I don't want to give this up. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
so that's true. No, I completely relate. Yeah,
that's my important. Listen, I want to thank you for being on the show. And once again, franosity.com. Go check it out. Before you make a decision about buying, investing in a franchise, go check out Cliff. Once again, Jake and Gino here, real people doing real deals, and we'll see you on next week's podcast. Thanks, everyone.